Welcome back. You should be experiencing a little more confidence now that you have created your first project from episode 3. We will continue to enhance your skills as we make more and more projects. I am going to continually push you out of your comfort zone. For today's tool talk, let's discuss a speed square. Now, a speed square in its very simplest explanation is similar to the combination square that you're using in that it can mark a 90 degree and 45 degrees and can be used as a guide for a circular saw. However, while their list of uses is long, one of the best benefits of having a speed square is they can also mark angles up to 90 degrees. Let's say I want to cut a piece of wood at 30 degrees. This would not be a problem marking this cut for a speed square. Let me show you. By simply lining it up from where I want to start the cut, then look on the opposite side, and you'll see on this side, you may not see them very well, but on this side there are numbers all the way up to 90. Right here is where the 30 is. Holding it on the mark, I would rotate my speed square till that mark was at the base of the piece of wood that I wanted to cut. I would hold it down and draw my line. And there is a 30-degree angle. Now, what if I wanted to use this speed square as a guide for my circular saw? So I do the same thing. There's where I want the cut. Measure down an inch, and I'm just spitballing here. Line up my speed square to that mark. Rotate to the 30. Clamp it down onto the wood. And now I have a guide for my circular saw to cut a perfect 30-degree angle. Like I said before, there are many other uses for a speed square, but I wanted to cover this one in this episode of Tool Talk. Now let's learn about a cut list. When you look at a set of plans, most of them will have a cut list on them. This is a very beneficial list to get you started on your project. Having all the pieces cut and ready to go will make it so you are not bouncing back and forth from setting up cuts, then going back to your project. I will show you a cut list for today's project and go over what you need to know. The first thing you will see is some sort of numbering system. This could be ABC or 1, 2, 3, similar to when you bring home a piece of furniture in a little tiny box that you have to assemble. You lay out all the pieces with the designation stickers up so you can see them, only to realize that you have piece E and G, but you are missing F. So you have to box it all back up and take it back to the store to get another one. In this scenario, I will be using ABC so it's not confused with the next number. After you make the appropriate cut, put the designation on that piece of wood so you know what piece you are working with. As discussed in episode 3, we want to determine what side we want seen on our project. In this scenario, we will be putting the designation on the side we do not want to show. So we will mark the bad side. The next item you should see is quantity. This will show you how many of that piece to cut. The next will tell you what piece of wood to cut from. Then you will see the length that you need to cut. In the event that you need to cut a piece at an angle, that should be the next number you will see, but we are not doing any angles. This is the cut list for today's project. Get all the pieces cut and labeled. Once you have the pieces, then we can get started on our step stool. Sweet. Let's lay out our pieces. A will be our steps, B will be our support, C will be the bottom base, and D will be the top base. Let's grab our D pieces, and what we want to do is measure up 1 inch from the bottom on both pieces. Then let's grab our combination square and we're going to draw a line across the 1-inch marks that we just made. Next thing we want to do is let's go ahead and set our combination square for 3/4 of an inch. Let's turn the piece over. Make sure you flip it the way I just did. Don't flip it this way. Flip it this way. That way this is still the bottom. We're going to make a mark on both sides at 3/4 of an inch. Alright, flip them back over. Now what we want to do is we want to measure in 2 inches and cross our line. This is going to be our starting point for where we're going to put the pilot hole. Go ahead and do that on both pieces. Next, let's grab our scribe, insert it to where we are going to be putting the drill, circle it around a few times. Go ahead and do that on both pieces. Now we can set up our clamps. Since this is going to be a wet run with the glue, I will be using a piece of parchment paper to protect the clamp. You can use saran wrap or wax paper, doesn't matter. So we'll insert piece D, and we'll also grab a piece C and put them into the clamp. Now if you don't remember how to set up the clamp, I'll show you. So we're going to put our spacer in. Remember, this is the 1-gallon paint stick. Butt it up against the spacer. Drill it down. Remove the spacer. Do that on both sides. You see that I have these clamps set up right next to each other. That's because we want both clamps to grab piece D. Alright, so our next step, we're going to put a small bead of glue on piece D and insert it into the clamp. Grab your shim, push it in finger tight. If the wood moves when you do this, just go ahead and realign it because you want this edge flush. We'll insert our second. Just like so. Alright, so our next step, we're going to create a pilot hole to toenail these two pieces together. So what we're going to do, we're going to insert the drill into the hole we made with the scribe. Using our variable speed feature, we're going to slowly pull the trigger until the bit just barely grabs in. Do that on both marks. So now what we've done by drilling these holes is we basically created a ledge for our drill bit to grab onto. Now we got to think about our fastener at this point. If we drill at the wrong angle, our fastener will go into the base, but it'll come out the back side of it. If we go in too shallow, we might not even hit the base and we're just going to drill straight through the top piece. So we're going to create an angle here that we think, and this could take some practice, that we think that 2.5-inch fastener will grab onto the top piece and the bottom piece without coming out the back. Now one thing to note here, I mean you can see my angle is pretty significant, but when I get to the point where my chuck is hitting the wood, I want to stop. If I keep going, I'm going to start bending this drill bit and it will snap inside of this piece of wood. So let's go ahead and do our pilot hole. Alright, so now we have a pilot hole that we can use to toenail these two pieces together. Let's insert our 2.5 inch fasteners. And you may notice when you clamp these together, the glue squeeze out I was talking about. You can see a little bit here. If you've got a significant amount, go ahead and get a wet rag and wipe that up before it dries. Alright, so we're going to take our T25. And there we go. We just toenailed those pieces together. We can now remove this piece from the clamp, and you can see it did not poke out the second side. Now we need to set up the other side of our step stool. In order to do this though, we cannot set it up the same way. We have to reverse the way we did it. So instead of lining up this way like we did with this one, we need to reverse it so we are actually lining it up this way. So you'll notice that when we put our stool together, the sides that we want facing front will be where we want them. Alright, so we already have our scribe marks. Let's go ahead and small bead of glue, put it into the clamp, and then we're going to clamp that down. Again, if your wood moves, realign it before you completely tighten the clamp. Alright. Same process. Remember, just drill till the bit catches. If you go too far, that's okay. It's not going to hurt nothing. Change our angle. Pilot hole. Grab our 2.5 inch fasteners. And there we have it. There's the two sides of our step. Now if you're watching this and you are familiar with pocket screws, you may be asking, why didn't I use pocket screws on this? Well, first of all, we're learning our drill, so we've got our angle cut here. And second of all, I wanted to teach you how to do a proper toenail. So now remember when I had you make these marks here on the front? These marks are important because we're going to get our scribe and we're going to start this one and this one. Now what we want to do is our combination square should still be set at 3/4 of an inch unless you played with it while we were working. Line it up, make our marks, cross our marks at cross our marks at 1 inch. And let's go ahead and scribe that one also. Alright, so we know that this is the outside of our bench. So we're going to pick this up so that the D and C are on the inside. Now with the help of two of our A pieces, we're going to attach the back brace B. The way we'll do this is we're going to grab a sacrificial piece and we're going to create two pilot holes where we made the scribe marks. Alright, so now we have a spot where we can drill our back bracer on. And that's how it should look right there. So a good piece of information to have here is the ruler on your combination square is exactly 1 inch. So with that knowledge, if we line up to the bottom and just make our mark up at the top, we know that we are over 3/4 of an inch and we're at the 1 inch mark. So with that knowledge, we can mark our 1 inch and not have to put the line all the way across. So now we'll just have a small X right here at this point. So before we put the back brace on, let's go ahead and make our marks for our steps. These are piece A. So we're going to do the 3/4 inch, 3/4 inch, and make a cross line. Do that on all 4 corners of all your steps. Then go ahead and scribe it and drill 4, 8, 12, 16 pilot holes. Okay, if you went with the optional countersink bit, we're going to use that next. If you don't have the countersink bit, you may be looking at your 3/8 inch drill bit in your drill bit set and think, I bet I can, whoa, let me stop you right there. You can, but you need some help. Once that bit grabs, it's very difficult to stop. With that said, if you don't have a countersink bit, let's make one. Grab a roll of duct tape. We'll wait. What? You don't have a roll of duct tape? Now would be a great time to pause the video. Take some time to reflect and ask yourself why. Welcome back. You can use masking or Scotch tape if needed. We want to create a stop towards the tip of the bit so we are not drilling deeper than we want to. Tear off about 3 to 4 inches from the roll of duct tape and then tear that piece in half. Throw one of the halves away. Starting just slightly below the tip of the bit, we're going to start wrapping that duct tape. Wrap it till you use all of the duct tape that you had torn off. Now, in essence, we've essentially created a stopper for this bit. So when we start drilling in, we will get some resistance when we get to this point. When that's the case, don't push it, but use that resistance as your point to say, well, that's it, I'm done. So let's give this homemade countersink bit a try here. So I'm going to put it into the scribe mark that I made, and I'm going to slowly pull the trigger. Okay, I felt the resistance against the tape. Now you can see we actually have a countersink. With that said, I want you to go ahead and countersink all of the marks that we made on the steps. Also, I want you to countersink all the pieces, or the 2 holes that we made on our sides of our step stool. Go ahead and do that now. So now that we have all our countersinks, we're going to want to assemble the back bracer. In order to do that, we're going to use two A pieces to hold the board up to help with this assembly. Grab piece D, pick out what side you want to show, then grab two of our A pieces and the sides of our stool. I'm going to set it up the way we're going to be building it. We will use these steps to hold the bracer up so we can drill it. Now place a small bead of glue on each side. Put our 5/64 drill bit back on and continue the pilot hole into the top of the bracer while holding it firmly with our free hand. Now here is where you will see how constantly changing out bits is going to get a little monotonous. So what we have to accomplish here is we have to be able to hold the bracer while holding the side of the step stool. So we can do that by using our free hand to grip the bracer, and we don't need much force, but we need to be able to hold on to the side of the stool while we're drilling into while we're drilling our pilot hole. First thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our back of our bracer is lined up to the back of the stool. So I'm going to grab onto my bracer. Using my thumb, I am holding the back of the side of the step stool, and I've got just one finger here putting the pressure on it to hold this in place while I do my pilot hole. So now that we have our pilot hole continued, we want to replace the pilot hole bit with the T25. So with the T25, we're going to go ahead and screw this in until it just pokes out on the other side. Now we'll take our bracer and we'll find the hole that we created when we did our pilot hole and insert the tip of that screw into that hole. Now we hold on to it again and we continue the screw into the bracer. So let's do the other side the same way. I'm going to turn this around because I'm right-handed, so it's be easier for me to hold on to the bracer, grab onto the side of the stool, and continue the pilot hole. I'm going to use the same method. Put the fastener in, and I'm going to screw that in just until it peeks out on the other side. Tear out. Alright, got to find that, oh, found the hole, put the force on it, and secure that piece. Now we can get rid of our A pieces that were helping us and finish the rest of the back bracer. So in order to do that, we're going to continue that pilot hole and continue that pilot hole. Now it is actually less work for us to hold on to this because we're already lined up. So there we go. Now we can move on to adding some of our steps. First one we're going to add is this step right here. This one will be our easiest choice because we've got help from here and the base. If you want to, you can also use the assistance of the clamp to hold it into place while you're putting your screws in, and that's fine. I'm not going to do that. I am going to add a small bead of glue, both sides, flip it over, going to hold it down, so that's one screw into our step so far. Now you can see what the countersink did. It made it so the screw went below the wood, so it's not sticking up. Go ahead and continue the other 3 pilot holes and get this step on. Okay, so we have our first step attached. Now let's attach our second step. Where do you think would be the most beneficial place for us to put this step? If you said here, you're correct. The reason why is we want to secure the back part of it so we don't have any movement whatsoever. Not saying that we will get movement with this piece and the bracer on, but better safe than sorry. So I'm going to flip it over, small bead of glue, and I'm going to put this piece on. I'm going to drill that pilot hole and put that screw in. Now I lined it up on this side and on the back. So I'm going to check this side before I put my pilot hole in and make any adjustments as necessary. Now that I have that lined up, I'm going to put one more screw in, doesn't matter front or back. And then just go ahead and finish the last 2. Alright, we're almost done with this project. At this point you should kind of see where we're going next. So we're going to attach these last 2 pieces. Remember to put a bead of glue, do your pilot holes, and then put your fastener in. Take a look. We made a step stool. Feeling like a woodworker yet? If you completed this project, be proud of it. Our objective is still learning our tools. This is another one you can come back to and put a finish on after we learn how to apply our finishes. If you put a finish on it, you may want to add some non-skid tape on the steps, as it will be a little more slippery now. If you have any glue squeeze out, go ahead and just wipe it up with a damp rag. Give it about an hour or so to dry, and then hit the edges with some 120 sandpaper just to soften these so they're not so sharp. After it's dried and you have softened the edges, take it to work. Have that annoying coworker give it a try to make sure it works okay. If you have small children, this would be an excellent step to reach the sink to wash hands or brush teeth. Or it should be just enough height to reach the top shelf of your cabinets. This concludes episode 4 of the series. In episode 5, we will make a small shelf. For our next project, we will need one 1x6x6 and one 1x4x6 common board. They are usually found in a different area of the store. Ask someone if you need help. If your lumber store does not have 6-footers in this lumber, 8-footers will be fine, and you can have them cut it in half if needed. I'd also like to add that we're going to need 1 5/8 inch screws, and we're going to need a can of spray paint. The one I'm recommending is the Rust-Oleum Chalked. If you can't find this one, that's fine. Go ahead and grab the Rust-Oleum 2x in whatever color you want. It doesn't matter. It's your shelf. One thing I would recommend though is that you don't want a gloss. Go ahead and get satin for this project that we're going to be doing. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments section and I will get to them as soon as I can. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to be notified of new episodes as they become available. Gather the lumber and the screws and the paint, and let's have some fun while learning. Take a look. We made a step stool. Feeling like a woodworker yet? If you completed this project, be proud of it. Our objective is still learning our tools. This is another one you can come back to and put a finish on it after we learn how to apply. Oh, eagle eye.